Okay, everybody, it's Jeff here. I actually did this video the other day, and I was doing it in the car because it was raining, and it didn't come out very well. The lighting wasn't good enough, and I'm having problems. I got all these cameras and stuff, but Camtasia just isn't working. Camtasia is not working to import MOV videos and AVIs, so it's kind of really a pain. So I have to actually do these shots straight. I can't edit them afterwards. It's really a pain in the bugs. Okay, that's not the topic of the video. What I want to cover here is, I think it was Carrie. No, I can't remember who it is on this one. We'll have to see. Whoever, I'll forget the LinkedIn post. This is about that there was, no, it was, I can't remember your name. Sorry. Well, don't worry about it. We'll find your name and make the post. It was about the kind of linguistic facts. It was International Translation Day and kind of odd linguistic facts for the day. And one of them was that Papua New Guinea has 841 languages. And it's it is one of those countries that actually does have a lot of languages. It's kind of like half of an island with part of Indonesia. And so at the log census there's 839. Okay, 841, 830, 839, 840. Yeah, let's round up to 850. Just kind of, lots of languages disappear pretty quickly, but about 850-ish. Okay. It is considered one of the most linguistically diverse countries of the world, with Indonesia right behind it, with another 700. But then you add India to it, which India is kind of interesting because the number kind of fluctuates between 35 and 3,000, depending on how you group these languages and dialects and what do you want to call them. Okay, so there's a lot. I mean, some say India has 1,500. Okay, 1,400-ish. Then you add Africa to it, and you're going to get another 1,500 to 2,500, depending on how you group those languages into, call them dialects, or you call them languages, or related languages, or whatever. I mean, how you want to linguistically group these things. But if we start taking those, those several countries and continents, and what the really important thing here is to understand is that, I mean, these are, I think in Indonesia said that it had 10% of all the world's languages, and so Papua New Guinea, PNG, has more than that. So we're talking in the 10-12%. But if you take all these several countries and continents I've just cited, we're talking 50% of the language of the world in just a few of them, right? Well, 54 countries in Africa. So kind of depends how you group this, right? But I think the one thing that's kind of important in all this to consider is that these so why this? I made a whole thing on what is the difference between a language and dialect. I made a whole video on that topic, so I don't want to restate all that. Linguistics, language versus dialect, on my YouTube channel. I don't go into all the details of that because that actually does break things down from a dialectology point of view, but actually from a linguist, different viewpoints, even Joe on the street point of view. So I don't want to go over that again. But I think what the interesting thing on this was that for PNG, Papua New Guinea, is that it's a very mountainous area, okay? And I actually, one of my first professors in linguistics actually did survey work in Papua New Guinea, PNG. So Lynn Landwehr, and so she spent a lot of her career doing that, just doing survey work, because there's so many languages, right? So I knew a lot what she talked about that in the classes she taught, and so that was, and I actually had my cousins actually lived on the other half of the island, so I knew a lot about what they did, and in forestry and health and all that. But the funny thing is that these languages, these are the ones that actually are still they're still living, they're still actually making it through. A lot of languages die, okay? Language endangerment is really, language documentation of language endangerment, endangered language and all that kind of stuff. Language death, language attrition, language death is kind of it's an ongoing topic that we in the linguist list, I'm on the board of the linguist list, and this is kind of one of the big topics that we deal with, right? So it's kind of an important one. And so the really important thing for that is, if we compare this to the Americas, to North America, Central America, and South America, the problem there is that there were as many languages. They just all disappeared because all the Europeans killed off the Indians, right? Whichever part in North America, decimated the population, and that included the languages with it, and put them on reservations, right? And it caused them to have to abandon the language. I used to work on Alaskan languages, native languages too, and so I know this issue of how many languages kind of exist and the populations thinking about it. And I got a lot of friends in linguistics, colleagues, peers in the field that work on native Indian languages in the North America. So I know what they do and stuff, and I know how hard they work to kind of preserve situations that are kind of difficult. A lot of embitterment to language identity and stuff because of what the Europeans, basically historical Europeans, did when they took over the continent. But the same thing happened in South America, right? Central and South America. Spanish was not the language, and Spanish and Portuguese were not the languages that were already there, right? They're the imported languages. So the ones that we refer to today as those languages of those countries are imported with people that kind of took over, right? So English and French, Spanish and Portuguese were all imported languages. And that was, and what happened is it wiped out a lot of it heavily impacted all the languages of the let's call them the Aboriginal languages, the indigenous languages of those countries or those lands. But the thing is that in the other countries I'm talking about, in Europe, well, not in Europe, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and in the Pacific Islands, those languages were able to continue on. Some died, but they've been able to continue, and they still do. And you can really contrast that. Now, some of the reasons why there are so many languages, and I'll just kind of summarize that really quickly, why there are 800 languages in a country, is mainly because or why that, like, a whole string of islands will have all these little dialects, right? Is because they're all physical boundaries. Well, India is different because India, you've got a lot of ethnical religious groups too, so that impacts things. Plus, India, you kind of get the injury of the Punjab, you get on the border, on the northern border, where they say it's a language from the bordering country, but the thing is, the languages are already there. What happened is that they set some administrative, country boundaries in place, but didn't take into consideration that the language was there, right? So they kind of cut through the thing and said, so on one side it's a language, and the other side it's a dialect. Well, no, it was already there. It just politics, right? Of who owns what lands, or who in power owns what lands. Okay, that's the really important thing here. Politics. But I think the really important thing here is there are a lot of languages that are dying fast, and there are a lot of language choice. There's a lot of stuff. I do a lot of videos on this topic of language identity, and I'm doing a lot more on that because it's kind of an important topic. And like I said, the linguist list, you get thousands of linguists that kind of go out and study these languages and keep them alive. That's kind of the goal, right? And to preserve them. Not just preserve them from death, but actually keep them living. Those are two different things. I'm going to state that. Keeping a language from dying is not the same thing of keeping it actually living. They're two different kind of things. One is just, you might still be working on there's 5 people left, right? And trying to preserve it and keep the language documentation about it, but actually keep it alive as you get a sustainable amount of children that are continuing to use the language into adulthood, and that's a whole different topic, right? So lots of great things that, International Translation Day is we celebrate once a year, but the kind of the sad thing that's happening is that we are killing off languages every day, right? And it's a language choice. It's people that make this decision based on economic viability and what it means to them and what it means to their children. And I've been thinking about this for the past, 10 to 15 years, a lot more about this. And I think that there's it's kind of a hard topic. I'm kind of rethinking this, what I think about these languages, and people will make choices. They will make choices for whatever they think is best for themselves and their children, as I said. And kind of the sad thing is that it often means language is dying, or attrition, language attrition, to the point where the language no longer has a sustainable amount of people that can speak it natively, or as a mother tongue, father tongue. I'm trying to avoid some of these words. We're getting in all this political correctness and all this diversity inclusion stuff, and I'm trying to avoid inclusive language. I'm trying to be careful with that. But these are the words that we use, right? So they're the words that we always traditionally used to explain what the languages are that people speak since their childhood, okay, at home. So so thanks for Cecilia, sorry I named your name, for bringing this up. And I think that's it's a great topic, and it's kind of just adds another one of these things on my linguistic tidbits of the day, or my word share tips of the day. And just glad to be able to answer a little bit and give a little background on that, and explain why we've got all these languages, and where they're coming from, and where we are today with it. Thanks so much for listening. I can't get this thing to turn off. This is the camera.